Thank you for being here today. Episode 6. So, Bunny, you are Transcendental Weather.
Yes.
How long ago has his name been?
I think I started going by Transcendental Weather when I was 19, like 19 or 20. And I had, at the time, I just had my ukulele. So I was like writing songs on the ukulele, and then I put one out for the first time. It's called Feel. It's actually still up on my SoundCloud if people want to dig for it. No, I wrote that song. It's literally 56 seconds long. And when I put it out, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, like I was having an anxiety attack, like in my bathroom, and like listening to the song over and over again, which sounds a little psychotic, but I remember sitting in the bathroom and I was like, oh God, like I don't know how people are gonna like this. Like this is very like new. And it got like pretty good feedback. Like a lot of people were like, wow, like this is so great. And coming so far from that, now I'm like listening back to it, I'm like, this is garbage, but they don't know any better, so they're gonna be like, yeah, it's nice. But from a musician standpoint, like the mixing was awful, the production overall was just really bad. The song is good, but yeah, no, I definitely started that when I was 19, but I've been making music since I was 5.
Okay.
I just didn't think that I wanted to be a full-time musician until maybe I think I was like 21, like 22, and I was like working at Earth Fair before they closed down. And at that point I was like, I want to quit my job and I just want to pursue this full time because like that's what I went to school for, like from elementary all the way to high school. I didn't go to college, but not everybody has to go to college.
You went to like a performing arts school, right? So, I mean, I read that essentially your parents like helped you and supported you through your musician.
It's my dad's birthday.
Today?
Yeah.
Hey-o.
I called him today. He lives in Seattle, and he's like, hey, what do you need? I'm like, I just wanted to say happy birthday.
Aww.
Like, my dad's my best friend. My mom is my best friend. And honestly, like, I had a choice in like wanting to do music, which was pretty cool. Like I know a lot of kids who do music now like really didn't have the choice to like pick whether they wanted to. Yeah. But I went to Peeler from kindergarten to 5th grade, and they were kind of just like, do you want to play violin or do you want to play piano? And I was like, I don't know. So they were like, all right, let's try both and see which one you like more. And then I picked violin and stuck with that for 8 years up until 8th grade in middle school. I was like first chair, first violin, and my teacher kind of burned me out a little bit from that. But my parents were like really supportive. They were always at my recitals and stuff like that. I think like after high school, it got a little difficult with like their influence because they kind of just like backed off a little bit because they were like, well, you've got it, like you can figure it out. But I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, but I want you at my shows. Like I want you to see me perform. So I think like the last show that they saw, I was 18. Mm-hmm. And I was opening for this band called Cucumbers at Common Grounds. I don't know if they're still a band anymore, but their band was literally just a white band with like cucumbers spray painted on the side. So I opened up for them when I was like 18, and that's kind of like, they'll still share my music on Facebook and like social media, but they're not physically present anymore for that. But gotcha. They've been pretty cool. They bought me like all the instruments that I have today. I mean, except for my violin. I bought that. My cat died, so I was like, I'm gonna pick the violin back up, and I spent like $200 on it. Which I mean, it made them really proud because they were like, we loved hearing you play violin, and like you don't play it anymore, and it makes us sad. So I was like, all right, like I love you guys, so I'm gonna do it anyways. But they've always been pretty good with that, and like they were constantly like playing like different kinds of music for me to listen to, mostly like Motown and like funk and like disco and stuff. So like my love for pop music definitely stemmed from that. And then my mother played the Downward Spiral, which is 9 Inch Nails. It's an album from 97. She played that from the time I was like born up until I was probably like 2 or 3. So I'm not shocked that I turned out this way.
You got a bunch of different I guess influences subconsciously too, most likely. Like you just had that in the background.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
Like headphones on the pregnant belly kind of stuff. So,
for real?
Yeah.
Nice. Wait, were they musicians or?
No, which I think is really funny. Like nobody in my family is a musician except for me. I have 3 siblings. I have an older sister. She also went to Peeler. She tried to learn the violin, wasn't very good at it, so she like didn't stick with it. And then I have 2 older brothers. My oldest brother, he is a pretty established rapper around Greensboro. He performs at the Flatiron a lot. I hate his stage name. I've told him this before because he's like, you can just call me that. And I'm like, I think it's mean. But his stage name is Fat Boy. My older brother, my other one, he's just an artist. Like he just like is a graphic designer. My dad's a graphic designer.
Oh, I see.
My mom's a writer. She writes poetry and stuff. I mean, my dad's he's kind of also a writer too, but he's like a science fiction writer guy. Like,
but still a family of artists.
Yeah.
But that's awesome that your parents are supportive. They're artists themselves, and then they're supportive, and they in a way, like, you know, they made you this musician. But when you play violin, what is that, like your comfort instrument in a sense, or what is the relationship with the violin for you?
Wow. No one's ever asked me that. Honestly, at this point, like my comfort instrument is my guitar. Like it'll always be my guitar. Like I'll go out and like play somebody else's instrument at a jam night, like in a pinch, and I'm like, this is not mine, and it feels weird. Like it doesn't sound right. Like I've bonded with my guitar. With my violin, it was more of just like, because I went to a public school, I was kind of just like, not necessarily renting them, but they were the school's violin, so I could take them home and stuff, but they weren't mine. And I felt like the violin was just like just for school, like, or like just for like private lessons or something. It wasn't necessarily something that I could just like pick up and like write a song on and just like have that like with my guitar. So it actually was not like definitely like a comfort instrument. It was just like something that I was super good at, so I just like kept doing it.
And you had to so
and I just felt like I had to like keep going until I finally got tired of it at 13, and I was like, my teacher's insane, and like I can't do this anymore. Like I don't enjoy playing violin anymore.
But you said that you bought a violin. Yeah,
so in 2019 I had a 2-year-old cat, and he passed away. My angel baby, I love him. He was very well loved, like up until he had to be put down. But at that point in my life, I was just like so sad, like not having him around, and guitar just wasn't doing it for me. Like I have a mandolin and a ukulele, like the other string instruments were just not working. Yeah. So I went into a music shop, and they were having a sale, and they were like, hey, like we have this really nice like 4/4 violin, like it's beautiful wood, like it's $200. And I just so happened to have $200 in my wallet. So I was like, I'm gonna get it. So I bought it. It's still currently sitting in my room, but it's really hard getting back into something once you haven't done it in a while. So I was like really, really good at violin, like not to toot my own horn or anything, but I was concert master. Like I could sight read, I could pick up anything just by hearing it. And now, like, whenever I play, I'm like, this sounds a little crusty. This sounds a little, like, I don't like this. So I'm having to reteach myself, like, everything that I know. Like, the muscle memory is still there, but, like, everything else, like, the technique is just, like, gone. But
do you still play to this day, or?
That's a good question. Sometimes. I think the last time that I actually picked up a violin, God, this is so long ago, was probably back in December... That seems about right. Like December, like of 2021. And it's only because a friend that I was crashing with, he plays the cello. And I was like, oh, like you play the cello, like I play violin. And he was like, oh, wait, 1 second, leaves the room and comes back. And he's like, I have a violin, you should play it. And so I played like a few songs, and he was like, you're actually really good. And I was like, no, I'm not. That's so nice of you. Literally, I was like, that's so nice of you. But like, this is nothing. But I just like sat around and just kind of like played around on the violin, and I was like, wow, I really miss my violin. So like got it out of like my friend's storage and put new strings on it. One of the strings popped because heat and like cold. So I have to replace that string, but I'm gonna be back at that level eventually. I'll get there.
So when you you put that song on SoundCloud and, people were like, oh, this is really cool or whatever. Like, what made you keep going even though you had that, in a way, like anxiety feeling?
Honestly, I don't know. I really don't. I feel like I'm insane for saying that, but I mean, I just felt like at the time that I was like starting to release music, I hadn't really found my voice yet. So that was me trying to figure out like where it was coming from and like how to like portray it to an audience, which wasn't good. Most of my songs, like my earlier ones, are just me kind of like not enunciating. It's like me mumbling and like singing, and people are like, what are you saying? Like, do you have lyrics? And I'm like, oh, I don't want to be perceived right now. Like, I don't want that. I just want you to listen to the music. But my latest album back in March, like I definitely have figured out like my sound and like my voice and stuff, so I'm a lot more comfortable with people knowing what I'm singing about.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to be really transparent and stuff. I don't know. I'm still kind of weird about it. Like whenever I perform, I'm wearing sunglasses because I just do not want people to notice that like my eyes are closed the whole time.
Like you said, you don't want to be perceived.
Yeah.
But
it's always like a wrong like perception. Like it's always something bad. Like people are like, oh, like, well, you don't talk much. You're probably judging me. And I'm just like, I have social anxiety. Like, I just don't like to talk. I really value silence. I grew up in a Quaker community, so I'm very heavy on like silence and just like appreciating somebody's like presence. And I'm still probably going to like kind of shield parts of myself from like random strangers and things like who just see me as like an individual and they're like, wow, you're really cool. Like, tell me about yourself. And I'm just like, well, here are some surface level things. And that's all you get.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that, well, first of all, I'm grateful that you're here with me. And like, we also have talked before.
Yeah.
And you said to me that in a way, it's like, even though I don't want to be perceived and I like to stay in not the shadows, but like stay in the background.
Yeah.
You are kind of the person that people are like, you're so cool.
They
like,
instantly like
hair.
gravitate towards me. They're like,
correct.
oh my God, I love your hair. I love your style. I love your tattoos. And I'm just like, but what else? So I need substance. Like I need like other things because like that's not gonna keep my attention. And it's always just like, oh, I love your hair. And I'm like, thanks. And then like nothing else. And I'm like, oh, okay. We could have been friends or something.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, like everybody in a sense has that social anxiety.
For sure.
Because a lot of people don't want to, fear of rejection and the way they're perceived and, first impressions and...
Yeah, it really catches people off guard when they see me because I look mean. I'm not going to front. I look mean. But then when I talk to people, I'm like, hi, I'm Bunny. Like, nice to meet you. Like, I make art. What do you do? What's your favorite color? Do you like food? And they're like, whoa. And I'm like, this is why I don't talk. Like, I get really excited. I'm like, oh my God, a new friend. Yes. Like, this is so awesome. And then they're like, I'm weirded out by you. Like, you're a lot. And I'm just like, okay, we can just go back to like the small talk and compliments.
To the color of the hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So you just released, well, it was March, you said that you released the, I Hope You're Happy.
Yeah. On the spring equinox.
Nice.
I made that album in a week.
Whoa.
I got my heart shattered by a previous partner. We weren't necessarily like official or anything, so it was kind of like in the gray area, which like made it really difficult to try to move on from. But he had gotten into a relationship with this girl. I remember it vividly as if it were yesterday. I was eating an Impossible Whopper. I'd taken 2 bites. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited for this burger. Like, this is going to be great. And then I like saw it on like his Facebook and I was just like, oh man, like what? And I started crying and I FaceTimed my friend and they were just like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And it was just like me just sobbing, just like loudly, just like sobbing. And they were like, what would make you feel better right now? And I was just like, guitar. Okay. And I just started writing a song as they were just like kind of like doing their own thing on FaceTime. And then I was like, actually, can I come over tomorrow? They live in Asheville, which is really funny. I was like, I'm just going to run away for like a couple days. So I went up to Asheville and I completed the song. It's called Stupid. I think it's the seventh track on my album.
I thought you were letting me in, but I was wasn't listening. I feel so stupid for hoping that it'd be okay. But now it's over, I'll take the hint and go away. You lied to me, I let it go all the time. In spite of me, but I gave you something of mine. My heart, you tore it in two. My head's still thinking of you.
And then after that, I remixed a bunch of other things. And then I just, like, while I was up in Asheville for a week, I just recorded the whole album all the way through, mixed and mastered it, and then put it out.
You did it all?
Yeah. I did all the promos. I think the only thing that my friend really helped me with was just, like, the album cover. And I released it on the spring equinox, and it got really good feedback, which I was also terrified of for some reason. I always get nervous posting my music because I'm like, I don't know how people are going to react to this. And then a lot of the lyrics or, like, experiences that I shared with him or, like, other people at the time that I was with him. I'm polyamorous, so, like, I kind of date around. I have many lovers. I love everybody. I can't help it. It's too hard not to. So it was just kind of, like, definitely me, like, coming into myself. But with or without him, I'm doing perfectly fine. And I just kind of wanted to, like, address that in the album, just be like, yeah, I'm sad about it, about what happened, but, like, I'm chill. Like, if you decide to come back into my life, I'm not going to be mad about it.
You did that all yourself, and are you working on anything in this moment, or no?
Wow.
Not really. No pressure, no pressure.
No, like, there's no pressure at all. It's just, people have been asking me that since the album came out. And it's not like the question is, like, played out. It's kind of just like, I don't really know what to say because, like, I'm so burnt out from literally, like, pushing out an album so fast. So I've worked on a few songs and they've kind of made it to the scrap pile because I'm like, oh, no, this is garbage. New, particularly, like, I released maybe 2 singles over the past, like, couple of months. But they were just, like, songs that I had already been working on and just, like, put them out.
And so you said that you make beats as well.
I do.
When did that start?
That started last summer, actually, around this time last summer. Wow. Things really come full circle. That's crazy. No,
Today.
I was just,
a
like,
year ago.
I was just, like, playing, like, around with, like, the live loops and, like, GarageBand, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And now that a year's passed, I've watched a crap ton of, like, YouTube tutorials on how to make, like, specific beats for, like, hyperpop or, like, grunge or, like, rock or metal or, like, anything. And then I kind of just use the virtual instruments and I, like, play around with the synths and, like, the 808s and guitars and things like that. And I just, like, kind of record everything from scratch now. But at first it was just me kind of dragging and dropping, like, different, like, sounds. And I was like, wow, this sounds chaotic. This is great. I'm gonna make an EP. So I made an EP of, like, just strictly, like, EDM beats and stuff, and, like, it definitely has a different style and, like, technique to, like, singing, which is, like, actually really hard to do. Like, it's a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. But after that EP that I put out last summer, I just started making my own beats, which led into my next album, and then all the singles after that. So I've just been kind of playing around with different genres. I do fae punk mostly, which is just punk music for fairies. And I'm currently working on a dark trap song where it has aggressive vocals in it. So I am doing, like, metal screams and, like, vocals in them.
I feel like you know a lot of people in Greensboro because of, you know, the school that you went to. So in a sense, you do have this group of people, acquaintances, friends that you know that are all musicians. Yeah,
it's actually really funny because, like, I actually don't talk to any of the people that I went to school with, just because, like, I don't really fit in with, like, the rich kid kind of vibe, where it's like I went to Weaver for a year and I did not fit in there at all, just because, like, I'm just, like, some poor grungy little gremlin. So it's, like, nice now that I'm 25 and I'm able to just kind of be like, I'm kind of bored at home, like, I'm gonna see what's going on at, like, Wahoo's or, like, Walker's or whatever, and I go and I network and I meet people. I do that in Asheville, I do it in Winston, I do it at every chance that I can possibly get is like I'll talk to somebody. I'm like, do you make music? Let's make music together.
Hell yeah. So you were mentioning, this is off the record, but you were mentioning about how you used to throw parties in your house. Like
yes.
I just want to like I'm trying to go through the timeline. Like, when did that start happening?
That actually started around the time that I started Transcendental Weather.
Okay.
So I had just moved out of my parents' house. My dad moved to Seattle, and my mom like moved to, I think, High Point or something. And I was dating like an old friend. That's a completely different story. But he's also a drummer. He makes music as well too. So like we were kind of like on and off for a while, and throughout that time I was like, let's go to a house show. Like, let's go to like Grime House or Poe Palace. There was Dijon Palace, Tuba House, Bird House, White House, Butler House.
Wait, these houses that you just knew because of friends of a friend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
gotcha.
literally just strictly through word of mouth, which is
Okay.
like very much punk, and I dig that. But no, we started going to these house shows a lot, and I was like, wow, like this is really dope. And it like inspired me to want to make like more music and want to record more. And I was like, I want to play my own house show. So then like a couple of years later, I wouldn't say the scene was kind of dying out. It definitely was like on its way to kind of like extinction, endangerment. I don't know. It definitely was like non-existent at a point. But my house, that I lived at road closed. I like had the idea like, oh, we could use the jam room as like a house venue space. Like bands can come and play and people can just like chill around the house. And it went well for a while. Kind of towards the end there, it kind of crumbled a little bit just because of like external things that were like happening outside of the house and with like my roommates and stuff like that. But in its prime, it was a lot of fun. I think the like the biggest show that we had, there were probably like 300 people that night, and I think it was New Year's Eve, and I had Black House play. Black House is a really good band. They're from Greensboro, so talented. I love them, and they started like during house shows like just kind of like jamming, and they were like, we're gonna start a band, and I was like, I support this, I love this. So like house shows were like a really big thing, and people who are my age are gonna remember them, and like older they're gonna be like, yeah, I was at that New Year's Eve show that you had. Like I'm still running into people now who are like, I've seen you before. I'm like, where? And they're like, there's this like New Year's Eve house show and like Black House is playing, and I was like, that was my house. And they're like, that's so cool. And I'm like, yeah, like it was really cool. But that was like right before lockdown and the pandemic, and then that just kind of, I don't know, forced people to kind of like move away and like move on with their lives. A lot of people graduated, so they were like, we can't keep doing this for years at a time. And it just kind of died out. So I think one of the last standing houses aside from my own was Ice House, and the people who lived there, like their lease time was up, like they graduated, so they left. So like it's just a house now. Like I pass by them all the time. It was just like a string of houses in God, what neighborhood? Like the College Hill area. Oh, okay. So I would party hop every weekend. Like I'd go from one house to another house to another house to another house, and like all throughout the night there's just like music playing like all throughout the neighborhood. And it was just like a really good community. Now the people who were in the bands playing at these shows, like they're getting paid gigs, like they're traveling, they're touring, they're doing everything they wanted to do. So I would hope and manifest that house shows could probably come back at some point, because I don't know, they bring people together. It's way more intimate than like going to like a big like concert or something.
For sure. I mean, there is I would assume that because of, you know, the school has a lot of different generations or people or influx of musicians in a sense, like it would come back, hopefully. Or...
I think it totally could, but I don't think it'll happen this year. Like I feel like that's like a 2023, 24 kind of thing. Because a lot of people don't know what house shows are. Like I'll tell people like, oh, have you ever been to like a house show? And they're like, what is that? I'm like, a show in a house? I don't know. And they're like, well, I thought you meant like house music. And I was like, well, there were those too. Like there were definitely like, there were a few house shows. Like Poe Palace was specifically for like MIDI projects and like electronic music. And then you had Grime House for like kind of dirty punk and like rock and roll. And then Road Clothes was like metal and like hardcore and like definitely a grimy punk house. So it just really depends on where you're gonna go that night.
What are some of your nostalgic or, you know, like nostalgic jams or...
This isn't even embarrassing because like I said, like I am cringe and I am free, but I really liked Radio Disney growing up.
Okay.
So like I'll go back and listen to like a lot of like bubblegum pop and like stuff like that, but only because I've noticed like with my style of music, if I sing along to it, if I harmonize, then it kind of gives me my own technique to my music and like how I do things. I literally had my friend yesterday, he was like, whenever you sing, it sounds just like your recordings. Like it sounds like you have like a built-in auto-tune to your voice. And I was like, do you want to know the secret? And he was like, what's the secret? And I was like, bubblegum pop. Literally, I grew up just like emulating whatever I was hearing on the radio. And so now, like, that I'm able to do that, I sound like Avril Lavigne or Hayley Williams from Paramore. I've gotten Alanis Morissette. I've gotten Michelle Branch. Yeah. Somebody said Tracy Chapman once.
Nice.
I can't see that one personally. I do love Tracy Chapman, but Tracy Chapman has definitely not been an influence in my music. I don't know. I love the Bee Gees. I love ABBA. Like, I'm not ashamed to say that I like the Beatles too. Everybody thinks the Beatles are just like cringe, but I love the Beatles.
Anything else that you would like, you know, to share with me with the...
I do run a collective.
Okay.
For artists in North Carolina. It was open to artists up in like Pennsylvania and New Jersey, but I really only met like a few people up there, so it just didn't really work out. But the collective is called Bad Art.
Okay.
Because while I was in New Jersey with a friend, he was like touring up there. I was at this venue called Meat Locker, and it's just like heavily graffitied and just like definitely very dark and cold and dirty.
Okay.
But a lot of hardcore shows happen up there. It's in Montclair, and one of the spots on the wall, it said Greedo hates bad art. And I was like, art is not bad. Like, that's subjective. Like, art can be good. Like, it just depends on how you look at it.
Correct.
So, like, as soon as I got home from that trip, I was like, I'm going to start a collective. I'm going to write a zine. So I wrote a zine about, like, a bunch of local musicians in North Carolina. I interviewed people for 2 years. And I think the zine is probably, like, 10 pages long. But It took me a really long time because with the pandemic, people were changing, like, not only, like, mentally and emotionally, but, like, a lot of people were, like, physically transitioning into, like, who they truly are. So I was like, well, we gotta, like, rewrite this because this is not you anymore. So Bad Art is just a collective full of not only musicians, there's artists, graphic artists, like, visual artists, photographers, people who make videos, people who build websites, like, literally everything that you could possibly need to promote your work as an artist or musician. And I just kind of go into the group chat and I, like, kind of pick people out and I'm like, hey, I'm having this event and, like, you will get paid for said event. Like, please come. And I think I had my first Bad Art event in June at Elsewhere, and it went pretty well. It's just like a little pop-up jam. I had a couple people come out for, like, I think, like, 2 hours. Like, maybe 2 or 3 hours, and, like, sell their art. I had my friends perform, and it went pretty well to the point now where they're wanting me to start a series of, like, events there, so.
Hell yeah.
But I'm thinking they're probably going to want to do something maybe once a month.
Okay.
I can definitely try to do something, like, maybe more than once a month. Like, it really depends, but I'm still trying to, like, get in there and, like, talk to them, like, in person. I don't like doing stuff over text or, like, phone call when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I have to set up a time to, like, go in and, like, talk to them and be like, hey, so, like, this is what I want to do on this date, and, like, here's what I have. Because with me networking, I've just been kind of collecting all of these people who are, like, anxiously waiting for, like, a time to, like, perform. And I'm like, okay, I got you. Just, like, give me a second. Like, I'm still trying to secure the space. But that's coming soon. So I want to do, like, raves. I want to do a roller disco. Like, I want to do another pop-up jam. I want to do just like a bunch of stuff that'll really like draw in like a crowd. And
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that a lot. This was all before the pandemic, you said, and where is this Zine that, I mean,
it is, I should probably make like a link tree to like put all my links in there, but I do have an Instagram page for bad art. It's called Not So Great, but it's not with a K. It's so complicated. I don't know why I made it complicated, but it's KNOTSOGR and then the number 8.
Okay.
And in the bio, it'll have like the link to the zine. It's kind of like a flip through where you can like digitally flip through it.
And I think Elsewhere is also a place that needs that recognition because it's a place for artists.
Exactly. Like
for artists by artists.
Exactly. I love Elsewhere.
And the fact that it changes.
Yeah.
And people live there, and I don't know. I just same with like, you know, etc.
Yeah.
Or Etsy, GSO.
I actually recently talked to them at the last show. I was like, hey, so can I book a show here?
I wanted to see if there's one record that you would just, you know, the one record that you had to listen for the rest of your life.
If I could have Black House in their punk era, like on an album, I would love that. Where it comes to celebrities, I would have to say it would definitely be an album by The Story So Far because they're my biggest influence musically. But I don't know which album I would pick because they have 5 of them and I like them all very much. So, and they're a really big influence, and I recently did like some more research on them, and the way that I'm so in sync with them is kind of scary. Like I had to like reach out to my friend and I was like, does this sound insane? And she was like, no, like that makes so much sense. Like that's so weird. So The Story So Far, they're a band from Orange County, California. But their lead singer, Parker Cannon, he is also a Gemini. He's a May Gemini, but he was born in Greensboro.
Oh.
And they're a really like big band. They've been a band for 15 years, since like 2007. And I was like, oh, okay, like that's just a weird coincidence. Like we're both from Greensboro, we're both Geminis, like whatever. So he actually doesn't tell people that he's from Greensboro. The only reason I know that is because I went to see them live in September in Charlotte, and his guitarist was like, oh, like Parker's from here, and somebody was like, oh, but like from Charlotte or like from where? And he was like, I'm actually from Greensboro. I just like don't tell people that. So he was born in Greensboro and he grew up like in California. But I did some more research, and not only is their band name from a song that really resonated with them. The song is called The Story So Far, and it's by Newfound Glory, which is like an old like pop punk band from the 2000s. I was like, that's how I got my name. Like Transcendental Weather is a song called Transcendental Weather from this band called An Aviate that I really liked when I was 15. And it really just kind of stuck with me. And I was like, I want to call myself that. And that was like before I'd even heard of The Story So Far. So when I like looked that up, I was like, oh my God, like we're soulmates. That's so weird. But there's like other stuff too. Like he's written like the stuff that he writes about in his songs. Like I write about that stuff too. Like our vocal styles are the same. Like I kind of use like the runs that he sings like as inspiration for like how I do my harmonies and like other things. And he also struggled with like a drug addiction, and it happened to be the same drug that I struggled with too. So I was like, I feel super connected to this band. Like that's crazy. And I remember looking at that when like I was at a really low point like in my life like a couple weeks ago, and like reading that I was like, I feel so much better. I need to write a song. Like this is good material. Like I'm gonna keep going, because I really was like, I don't think I want to make music anymore. Like I really don't. Like it's so hard, and like it's hard having to run multiple social media accounts when you're just like burnt out, because like that's how you keep people like interested in what you're doing. And I was like, do I really care if people are interested in what I'm doing? Yes, I do, because like that's how I pay my bills. But at the same time, it's just, it's a lot. Like it's a lot of stuff that's like going on. But that just like really affirmed like a lot of things for me. I was like, I'm gonna make it out of Greensboro.
gotta believe in yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Put it out there, manifest it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
I'm really excited to see that become a reality. I'm also happy that we got to connect and meet each other out of just the fact that you're in my house.
So just like upstairs.
I love that. So there's no coincidences. But I'm just grateful for your time and sharing your time with me.
Thanks for having me. I had fun.
Thanks a lot.